on a daily basis. And there was this suggestion. I'll just show it to you as a kind of, to refresh our memories, and then we'll proceed with our today's session. All right, we actually called it Ramadan Toolbox, and there was this suggestion for daily acts and dhikr for Ramadan. Like, for example, the first week we seek mercy and forgiveness, all right? And we can actually recite names like holy names like Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. And we also mentioned, aside from the zikr, how that we can do some actions. We take certain actions of good deeds in Ramadan. For example, like in the first day, you can show compassion to family and friends. And then the second day, we did actually, there was the suggestion to perform Salat al-Tawbah, right, which is prayer of repentance, by which you can actually start this holy month like a fresh kind of start. And then there's this name Al-Karim on the third day, Al-Latif on the fourth, and so on and so forth. So for each day, we had in this toolbox a certain name that can be recited, and also actions that that we can do in Ramadan, right? So I hope that you have this on the site. I will resend it to Sister Layla so that she can publish it for you to take a look at on SunnahFollowers. So it is really a very good suggestion. Some of the names can be recited 100 times, maybe less, maybe more. It depends on your own spiritual readiness, right? So sometimes it would require you to repeat a certain name several times in order for you to feel or to sense the magnanimous effect of this name on your spirituality. All right, so and this was a very quick recap on what we had last session. As for today, we're having a very interesting one as well. In which we'll go a little bit deeper into the meaning of fasting in Ramadan, the implication of this holy month, and how it could be seen and actually applied on different levels and scales. So allow me to share this with you here. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. May God accept our deeds, rectify them if we go wrong, and please Sayyidina Rasulullah with them. Okay, so let us start. Bismillah. Hold on a second, it doesn't show here. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so the thing is here that Ramadan is a spiritual journey. This is how we need to see it. It's a spiritual journey and it's beyond rules into divine connection. So we need to see things from a different perspective. It's not only a matter of rules. It is not only a matter of course, God as God, he has all the right to demand, to order us, to command us to do certain things without us knowing the reason. As servants of God, we just need to obey. However, in some cases, knowing the hikmah, which is the wisdom behind those orders and demands, would actually draw you closer, right? But mind you, we as human beings, we can never actually have a complete understanding of the hikmah or the wisdom. But it is just an endeavor. We're just trying to see things from different perspectives in a way that would draw us closer to God. All right, so that is what we're trying to do today. So the spiritual journey of Ramadan is beyond rules into divine connection. That is the title of today's session. So Ramadan is a time for spiritual renewal and growth, offering a profound opportunity to deepen our connection with God. Let us see how. Now, there are 3 sacred levels of fasting. And this is, I think, very important for us to understand. Now, the 3 levels are as follows. There's the fasting of the common, the fasting of the special, and the fasting of the divine elect, the people who are elected and selected by God. All right, so there are 3 levels. And actually, those 3 levels, they can be seen, they can be actually implemented in all our lives. So not only in fasting, but whenever you are in the process of doing a certain act or in behaving in a certain manner, you can actually trace those 3 levels. So let's take the first one, fasting of the common. This is abstaining from food and drink. It's a necessary taban first step, of course, yet merely scratching the surface of Ramadan's true potential for inner purification. Right? So that is the basic level where we just abstain from food and drink simply because God ordered us to, which is taban, a very good thing to do. I'm not undermining this at all, but this is not enough. It is good, but not enough. The second phase, or the higher level, it would be that it's beyond the physical. It involves guarding the senses and mind from negative thoughts and influences. This level seeks to refine character and intention. So let's go back to this point, which is guarding the senses and mind. That demands that we be conscious, that we are tactful. We observe what we say, we observe what we do. So this level of consciousness is very important when it comes to something as divine as Ramadan, right? So that's the second level. So it's not only that we abstain from food and drink, but we also have this kind of consciousness, awareness, observation of not only of our physical self, but also our thoughts and our mind. We see what is going on, how I thought about that, what did I say even to myself, but that's a little bit higher than the previous level. The third is fasting of the divine elect. It's a complete dedication to God, marked by a heart free from worldly attachments. This is achieved through constant remembrance and seeking divine love, which is the ultimate goal of Ramadan, right? So dedication to God. So even when you feel like, the surah in the Quran, which is the Kahf meaning the cave. So Ramadan is also a cave that we resort to, right, to pull us out of our worldly attachments, sort of. So when you see it this way, a lot of things will change. Like, for example, here in Egypt, for instance, unfortunately, for some reason, lots of families, they have associated Ramadan with ample kind of foods to be served and lots of dishes and the iftar and so on. And that is a misconception, right? So if we really understand the true meaning of Ramadan, it is the complete opposite. It is abstaining from food and drink, not only during the fasting hours, but also even before, after that. So so when you start drinking and eating, right, you remember that you are doing so because God has also ordered us. So He ordered us to eat as much as He has ordered us not to eat at certain times, right? So in the Quran, He clearly, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says, "Eat and drink." He did say that. كلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا, right? So He said that you can eat, you can drink, but not excessively. So if we remember that while we're eating our food in the iftar, we will actually abstain from any kind of excessive food and drink. All right, that is the first thing that we wanted to discuss, which is the 3 sacred levels of fasting. From that, we go on to more details about that. So again, there, as we said, the fasting of the general or the common, and we mentioned this already. The fasting of the specific or the special kinds of people who have more insight, and then the fasting of the divine elect, and it has to do with you spiritually, basically, all right? And so it is also about your perception of things, the way you see things. All right. Now, let us move on to this part where it says, among the righteous, true fasting specifically means restraining all limbs from sins, right? And this encompasses 6 crucial aspects. Like, for example, lowering one's gaze. What if I gazed on something that I shouldn't actually be looking at, or a man gazing at a woman passing down the street or whatever, right? Well, will this actually ruin the whole thing? Will it ruin his fasting? No, it won't. But again, it will diminish the kind of sawab and reward that a Muslim might actually gain from Ramadan, right? So a person from the 3rd tier or the 3rd level, where a person that is called the divine elect, the one who is really elected and he's close to God, he would actually also be guarding his eyes, right, and his ears and his tongue, as you can see, numbers 1, 2, and 3. Going on to number 4. So we have, it all has to do with our senses, right, and how to control them, knowing that you are in the holy month of Ramadan. And the word holy demands that we remember how important it is, how divine this is, and that the whole thing is about you drawing closer to God. So another thing is moderation during iftar. That's number 5 here. So as I was just saying, that even when it comes to a time of permission to eat and drink, you should not abuse it. You should not be using it in the wrong way. You should actually be tactful. It's like because if you overdo the eating and drinking, it's like you're saying, God has abstained me. God was like I was hindered. I was controlled. It's as if you dislike the situation you were in a few hours ago before iftar. But if you really enjoy this spiritually, so when the time comes for you to drink and eat, you won't be doing it excessively. You'll be doing it moderately, right? And the number 6 is very important. It says here, heart condition after breaking fast. So letting your heart remain suspended between fear and hope, unsure whether your efforts have been accepted or rejected among God's close servants. And you maintain this mindset after every act of worship, reflecting on whether it was accepted or rejected. So this is really important. I'm not saying that you should be like worried, non-stop worry, or kind of that you are unsure about how God is receiving your deeds. This is not how things should be. But again, being too sure, that I did it just right. I know that I have fasted Ramadan the way I should have, and that I'm positive that God would reward me. I mean, if it is said in a way that has some kind of vanity in it, then definitely it is the wrong way of doing it, right? So you should not be confident about yourself. You should be only confident that God is gracious, that God is benevolent. If you have trust in him, you're trusting him, you're not trusting yourself, you're not trusting that you did it the right way. You're always in a state of hope and desire, and that you are praying that God would actually accept your deeds. That is how it should be. All right, and from that we move on to this part where we have the fasting of the common. There are, as we said, physical restraint and spiritual benefits. So the first level, right, and abstaining from food and drink, we're going back to it because you want to focus on something. That does not mean that there is no spiritual benefits from that. right? There is always a spiritual benefit once you comply to God's orders. So what could be the spiritual benefits? It says here empathy for the poor and self-discipline are cultivated through the act of fasting. This restraint allows individuals to connect with those in need and to foster the strength to resist temptations. It is a seed that sprouts greater spiritual awareness and compassion, right? So these could be some of the spiritual benefits, right? So the idea of breaking loose from the attachment of your daily routine. Of course, I remember. Actually, I do come across lots of people, like for example, my colleagues at work, that would complain that they are in the habit of drinking coffee in the morning, and now that it is Ramadan, they won't be able to do so, and this is something that would actually irritate them, at least for the first week or so, right? Well, that's exactly what Ramadan is all about. It's about breaking you free from your habits, breaking you free from what you think is something that you cannot live without. Because once this happens at any level, whether it's food, drink, seeing your friends, going to work, if you think that you're too attached to anything, then that in itself is something that would displease God, right? Because He wants to free you. By being a slave to God and only God, you're freeing yourself from being a slave to anything or anyone else. All right. And if you are, because attached is one way of slavery, it's another, it's synonymous to slavery. And God does not want us to be slaves except for Him, which is actually where freedom resides. All right, if we go a little bit deeper, we can see that the fasting of the special has two benefits, right? Different from the fasting of the commons. Now, for the special people, they're special because they exerted more effort. They're special because they purified and asked God to purify their souls. And the result of which would be number one, mind purification. So control over thoughts and desires is achieved by focusing on virtuous thoughts and resisting negative impulses. This involves actively guarding the mind against distractions and temptations, fostering a state of inner peace and clarity. And I think this is one of the most important targets we need to achieve in Ramadan, which is fostering a state of inner peace and clarity. And I don't think that this can be attained except by God's will and assistance. So we need to ask God, but just by asking Him, by praying to Him to actually help you or assist you with inner peace and clarity, that in itself means that you are aware that these two components are very important in your life. So awareness in itself would actually entice change. After mind purification, we move on to the sense refinement. So it's increased awareness of the world is cultivated through the mindful observation of sensory experiences. This practice involves consciously directing attention to the subtle influences of sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch, thereby enhancing appreciation and understanding. Right? So it's not only that you are constraining your senses like it was in the previous level of fasting. We said that fasting has 3 levels. The first is the one for the commons, the second for the special, and the third is for the elect. Now, for the special, it's not the senses. You're not only restricting them, all right, reluctantly, but you are willingly refining them, and there's a huge difference, right? So in this case, you have this conscious direction of attention using those senses, whether it's sight, sound, taste, and smell, right? And this would actually enhance appreciation and understanding, as it says here, right? Moving on then to the elect. Now, those people, may God hopefully, inshallah, enroll us in this section, the ones of the elect. Now, they actually enjoy 2 things: total surrender and spiritual illumination, right? So total surrender, surrendering to God's will, embracing complete submission and trust in the divine plan. This involves relinquishing personal desires and ambitions, aligning one's actions and intentions with the divine guidance. And this is so important because the first level, you will feel that they are actually exerting effort, they're forcing themselves to do what God has asked them to do. That in itself is a very good step, all right, for you to actually follow God's orders. But it for the first level, that has some kind of strain, it has some kind of, difficulty. You're trying to pull yourself out of something and into something else with compliance. Whereas here in the elect, they do so with joy. They do it with pleasure. They find pleasure and happiness in following God's orders, right? So they aligned their actions. There's no effort exerted here. It comes in, spontaneously. It is. I need to remember one of the hadith by Sayyidina Rasulullah that says in Arabic, let me say it in Arabic and then translate it because I don't have it here. It says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت به. May God help me translate that. It is saying, Rasulullah is saying that no one would be a true believer unless his tendency, right, would be aligned to what I have come with, meaning the orders and the demand that I come up with, that I came with from God. So alignment is a very important word here, right? And for you to reach that, for us to reach that level, it would take some time to actually, tame, that's the word, to tame yourself for it to accept God's orders with pleasure and with ease. All right, so it says here in the first part, the first column, total surrender. The last 3 lines says that we're aligning God's actions and intentions with the divine guidance and accepting whatever comes as a part of God's wisdom. All right, as for the spiritual illumination, that's the reward that God has actually bestowed upon those people. So experiencing divine presence, receiving insights, and attaining a profound understanding of spiritual truths is the outcome of all that process, right? This encompasses perceiving the divine light within oneself and the world, fostering a deep connection with a divine source, and allowing divine wisdom to illuminate the path towards enlightenment. Isn't that beautiful? See how this level is actually a heavenly one. It is a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala onto those servants who were able to attain this kind of peacefulness, which is a result of al-jihad, which is that they have been striving against themselves, right? Because they're trying to, as I said, to tame that self, to mold it and shape it in a way that God and His Prophet Sayyidina Rasulullah actually demand. Okay. From that, we talked about breaking free. It is so important to break free from the worldly attachments in order for you to reach spiritual liberation. So the worldly attachments like material possessions, desires, the egocentric concerns, all that, these are all attachments, worldly attachments that create a sense of dependency and prevent the soul from reaching its full spiritual potential, acting as barriers to divine connection, right? That is why God is asking us to abstain even from food and from water even, right? Which is, basic thing. And that's exactly the point, that even the basic thing, which is drinking some water, he's not even discussing, we're not talking about wine, we're not talking about anything that is really haram. We're even saying the things that God has labeled as acceptable, as halal, as available for us to do, he would actually restrain you from doing them. Not because he wants to punish us, subhanahu wa ta'ala, but because he wants to teach us. He wants to refine our souls so that we don't get attached to those worldly attachments. From that comes the spiritual liberation. So freeing the soul for God through detachment from worldly distractions and a focus on divine remembrance. This liberation allows for a deeper connection with the divine, fostering inner peace and spiritual growth, and ultimately leading to a state of profound surrender and enlightenment. Right? So it is a process, and God, who created us, knows. He knows how the road is paved for us to reach the spiritual liberation, and it has to go through abstaining yourself from even what is halal, what is already available for us. Okay, so from that, even hunger, physical hunger, right, this is the transformative power of hunger. It says here that the spiritual hunger, the body experiences a natural need for nourishment, of course, signaling a dependency on sustenance. So during fasting, the hunger becomes more pronounced, more seen, and urging us to acknowledge our physical limitations and needs. So it is good to see yourself that you can actually be hungry at times, because you know what happens once the first signal of hunger is seen or felt. You will spontaneously like order some food, you get some pizza and so on and so forth. You don't actually allow yourself to feel the actual hunger, right? Because once, as I said, once the alarm is set, you or most of us would actually, some even people would panic. It's like they shouldn't feel hungry, they shouldn't feel thirsty, but actually God is exposing us to this, and this is one way of refining the soul, right? Through overstepping the needs of the body. All right, from that, you can achieve spiritual awakening. So as the body abstains from food, the mind and soul have an opportunity to seek deeper meaning. This awakening involves introspection, reflection, and a heightened sense of awareness, leading to a stronger connection with the divine and a clearer understanding of life's purposes. Right, so this is how things actually go from one level to another. But for us to actually experience Ramadan with all these concepts and ideas clear in our minds, I think the whole experience will be different for us. And the last thing here is what can we do to take the maximum benefit from Ramadan. It says here, reaching divine proximity. Now, there are three things, and of course, these are not the only three things that we need to do, but there are the three basic things that we have to try our best to perform in Ramadan. First is increase prayer. And we need to spend more time in worship, both obligatory and voluntary prayers, to strengthen your connection with the divine, and engage in personal conversations with God, expressing gratitude, seeking guidance, and finding solace in His presence. So let prayer be a constant companion throughout your day. And I think I need to pause here for a second and tell you that one very good way of enjoying praying could be using imagination. So imagination is really very important as a very good step. It's like a turning point, so that you can, instead of just thinking which verses I'll be reciting, how many rak'ahs I have performed, and so on, you can actually use your imagination. And for example, You can actually, when you're stepping into, you have your prayer mat there, and you're taking your first step on the prayer mat, you may actually try to take a few minutes or seconds to collect your thoughts, and you try very hard to maintain some kind of focus, that you will be in a minute, you'll be in front of God subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can imagine the angels around you. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. And the more you imagine, the more spiritually connected you will be. And I remember one of the Sahabas, the followers, but I don't really remember his name. He mentioned that when he starts praying, he could see, or it's like he can imagine hell on his left, and paradise on his right, and he could see the straight path in front of him. And so he is using his imagination. And Sayyidina Rasulullah, he never commented on that negative. He never actually reprimanded him for this, which means that he accepted that. So we can do this. We can make use of our imagination in a way that would elevate our spirituality during prayer. If you imagine that you are standing in front of a huge door, behind which would be lights and some kind of support, like lights and support from God subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then after finishing your recitation of the Fatiha and the verses, you feel like the angels have opened the door in front of you, and therefore you start kneeling, because you could sense the glory of these I can't really get to explain it, but it depends on how you want to imagine the situation, because I don't want to impose a certain scene for you. You can have your own scene. You can some people would imagine Sayyidina Rasulullah being present while you're praying, and there is an evidence, by the way, that he is present, and it's only that we sometimes do not sense the presence, does not deny that he is present. And the proof is that in at-tashahhud, before you finish your prayer, you say assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi, peace be upon you, Prophet Muhammad. All right, so it's as if he is actually there in front of you, because in Arabic, alayka, assalamu alayka, right? It means that it is actually it is a pronoun for the someone who is present. All right, so again, so you can think of any of the Sahabas, the followers that you actually that you love and you feel that you're attached to. You can think of them, imagine them being present during your prayer. So that will take it to a different level altogether. So the first thing is increasing prayer. The second thing would be reflecting on the Quran itself. And you need to deepen your understanding of the Quran by reading the verses thoughtfully and contemplating their meanings. Study the interpretations and explanations provided by scholars, and strive to apply the teachings of the Quran to your daily life. Let the Quran be a source of wisdom and guidance. The last thing could be give charity, right? So we can make use of Ramadan and how that God has promised us that during that holy month, whatever good you're doing will be multiplied by 70, right? So even and of course, count is endless. Yeah, he is the most benevolent. So you can make use of all the good deeds being multiplied in that month. So we can also support organizations that provide assistance to the poor. Excuse me. And giving charity not only benefits others, but also purifies your own heart and brings you closer to God. Right? So these were some tips and some ideas that I wanted to share with you concerning this holy month, and how that we can see it from different perspectives. And there is this rule that says perception is projection, right? So once your perception of one thing changes, your projection and even your behavior would definitely change as well. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I might actually leave you with a few minutes by one of the very well-known scholars, Islamic scholars, Norman Khan. He had this very interesting talk about Ramadan, and I would like to share with you a few of those minutes. Let me do this now. Hold on a second. And as you all know, once we're done, if you have any questions, we're more than willing to share any queries, any questions, or even just sharing some thoughts if you wish. Okay. Sorry, hold on a second. Just want to make sure that the sound is shared before I actually sorry, can anyone tell me if the sound is clear?
That sound that I heard right then wasn't clear. It was a little muffled, a little muffled. No, it's not clear at all.
All right, so I thought. Let me try once more time. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. All right, unfortunately, I cannot even find it. It's gone. So maybe it is not destined for us to play today. I will try and fix that next time. But he was only talking about also seeing Ramadan from different perspectives and how that making use of every day is really important. And that 30 days, by the way, is not many days. They fly in seconds. So we need to make the best of these days. And all right, so that comes to, we come now to the end of the session. And as I said, I'm more than willing to receive any queries. And if anyone wants to share how the first week went in Ramadan, I'm more than happy to hear that. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum. And yes, if you have any questions, please share.